please give a warm welcome to Mr. Tim van der Vliet.
Good morning. How are you? Nice. It's maybe a bit cheesy, but I would like to start with a message from my spiritual teacher.
People try so hard. They think, they never stop. They look for answers, but don't know the questions. I never considered myself a spiritual leader. I just follow my intuition, my instinct. So one day I met this guy. He used to be a stock trader. He was looking for meaning, for truth, perhaps for a god. He traveled the world to find joy, enlightenment. He went to meditate in Japan, studied Eastern philosophy, and stayed in an ashram. Like they all do. But he didn't find what he was looking for. Back at home, he walked into someone in the very same street he lived in. Someone in peace, with no memories of the past, no worries of the future. Me. And somehow I became his teacher. We talked about how to have more fun, how to make things work, which rules to follow and which ones to break. I actually never answered his questions. I just pointed the way, I guess. And when you think of it, if you spell dog backwards... Never mind. What's for dinner? Oh yeah, he wrote a book about it too.
So sometimes people ask me like, so how did the neighbor's dog Sammy transfer the message to you? Was it telepathically? It is a joke, you know. It's what I mean with having Sammy, my spiritual teacher, the neighbor's dog, as my example, as my spiritual teacher, is that there's no such thing as a guru. Yeah, the only guru is you. You for you and me for me. And this doesn't mean that you cannot be inspired by people or cannot have teachers. It's actually exactly the other way around. If you don't have a guru, if you are your own guru, you can be inspired by everything that is happening in your life, including a teacher. You know, the guy with the beard in India, for example. Or other things, maybe even the harder things in life. Now, I call my philosophy Zen from Amsterdam. And Zen from Amsterdam is basically a bridge between two worlds. So you could say the spiritual world and the rational world, or the spiritual world and the scientific world. Or, for example, being a dad of 4, stay-at-home dad of 4, which is my case, and still have fun in life, you know? Now, the story of Zen from Amsterdam, or my story, it started about 18 years ago, when I started as a stock trader. And this may sound weird, but let me explain. So I came fresh from university. I studied financial economics, a lot of math and mathematics, econometrics, stuff like that. And my boss was telling me, his name is Ad, he was telling me, okay, Tim, I want you to listen. So of course, my first day, I listened to the guy. And he says, first of all, I want you to forget everything you know, everything you learned at the university. I want you to be a blank page now. I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting, you know, like what the hell did I study for 6 years? And he said, basically a good trader has only 2 features. Feature 1, and a good trader is a trader that makes money without too much risk. That should be clear, right? A good trader doesn't have a big ego. Because ego shows in either being fearful or being overconfident, too big for your boots. If you're in fear, you will be nervous and you will never ever be in time for the right trade or dare to make a decision at all. But if you're overconfident, you think, you know, like, I am bigger than the market, I'm bigger than God, or whatever you want to call it. Then you will make too easy, you'll make your trades too easy, have too much risk, and probably not only drag down yourself, but also the company with it. So a good trader is standing in between his fear and in between his confidence. And that is now actually the core of Zen from Amsterdam. There's always two sides. You know, it could be male, female, heaven, earth, dreaming and reality, dreaming and putting your feet on the ground. There's always two sides. And if you can learn to stand in the middle, then the energy starts flowing infinitely. Okay, so this is the first feature of a good trader. Not have a big ego. And it's funny, we're talking about the financial world, you know, the world where money only counts. And this was my first day, my first lesson. The second lesson was, a good trader, he doesn't care if he just did his worst or his best trade of his life. He's ready for the trade to come. So he doesn't have a memory, you know, he's forgetting what he did. He's ready for the trade to come. He's living in the now. A good trader doesn't have a big ego and is living in the now. First day financial world. Of course, the moral of the story here is that you can learn your spiritual or your life lessons anywhere. You know, as a lawyer, as a student, as a financial trader, as a mother or as a father, it doesn't matter. You don't necessarily have to go to India to meditate in a cave for more than a month to get to your life lessons. Zen from Amsterdam is a way to find your intuition, to trust it, and to follow that intuitive path. And I believe that your intuition, your gut feeling, is the way to create long-term happiness. Together with the mind. Here too you have two sides, intuition and mind. And if you're only being intuitive, you're going to be woo-woo and over-spiritual and fly around. If you're only mind, then you're too rational, you forget what your dreams are. So it's about being both, one and the other, or being both at the same time. You don't necessarily have to believe in the mystical world to be spiritual. You don't have to believe in angels to follow your intuition. You don't have to meditate for 4 hours a day or do yoga 2 hours a day to be able to follow your intuition. It helps for me, but you will never hear me say, this is the way and it's the only way, and if not, you will never get there, because that's just bollocks. If you work on both your mind, body, and spirit, you get synergy advantages. Yeah, one helps the other. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 111 and not 3. Yeah, so if you learn to clean up your mind and to think differently, you learn to clean up your body, eat healthy, for example, and you find out what really moves you. This is where you start growing. This is personal development, a very simple view on personal development. Now, if you put time in the 3 of them, you get number 4, which I call the force. This is the synergy advantage. You get more flow on your path. Things seem to go automatically. And then, so this whole part is still personal development, right? Now, what makes it holistic, you could say, is step number 5. This is, I call it in my book, to move towards the light. These days, I call it to leave a legacy. And to leave a legacy is where you go beyond yourself and you start taking care of the group around you. You know, and this can be your community or your family or your partner, but it can also be a lot bigger, like the whole world, for example. And there's that part that does work for you, and that part that doesn't work for you. The part that doesn't work for you, you start to change, think differently. It's actually a really fun and creative process. And this is a challenge that I take on in life. I believe that from everything that is holding us down, we can learn something so we can use it to our benefit. You are more than your thoughts. Right? You've heard that before. Well, you're certainly more than an obnoxious belief system. So remember this whenever you think like, oh no, you know, you really don't have to believe everything you think. My belief system is built up 44 years of thoughts. So it takes a while to change that. If you have a new insight like, oh God, is not a man with a beard that is judging me when or even worse, when I'm still living. God may be just energy. Then after that really enlightening insight, you can still have the thoughts like, okay, God will punish me. This is because your mind is being disruptive, obnoxious. It wants to go back to that old situation. And you gotta take a little bit of time to do that. Now there's two ways of letting go. There's mentally letting go, and there's physically letting go. Now mentally letting go is, for example, to find some form of silence, to meditate. I like to call it finding a form of silence, because there's more ways than sitting on a cushion in a lotus position. Finding some form of silence. But, and this is a bit paradoxical, and I believe that the paradox is in the power of paradox. Yeah, if you find a paradox on your path, you're probably on the right path. Finding silence is one way, but the other way around is also making noise is a great way to become silent. If you go to a concert, to your favorite band, and they play your favorite song, you know the lyrics, you start singing and screaming and yelling, you are actually in complete silence in your head, because you're expressing yourself. Another thing that works really good for me is exercise. And I don't mean like standing in the gym and like doing like that all the time. My exercises are 5 to 10 minutes a day. I have a very simple morning exercise. And I will show you one of them. I think that is my next sheet. And I just said that I love paradoxes, the power of paradox. If you do something good in your life, you're following your intuitive path, you maybe find a paradox. So whenever you find a paradox in life, you'll be fine. Another thing is that if you do something that works for you, there may be a positive side effect. And this is a film. This film is made by my daughter Rio, who is now 15, but she made this 2 years ago. You will see the positive side effect. He joins in. For him, yoga is playing outside. He loves the word. He's like, yeah, we're going to do yoga, and then we're going to some playground, So light exercises, it's the same. It doesn't have to be all that good immediately. Just start something off. And there are some tools that are also not only mentally letting go, seeking some form of silence mentally, or finding it, or physically letting go, but there is also those tools that do both at the same time. And a great example is to have a stroll in the park, to just walk. And another great example is to dance, and it's basically the same. By moving your body in a rhythmic way, your mind just clears up, and you train also your body at the same time. Now another tool is Qigong. Have you ever heard of Qigong? Yeah, okay, cool. So I want to teach you the basic position and a small exercise that is perfect for a morning exercise. Wake up, toilet, glass of water, Qigong exercise. And after that, a small meditation, if you like. If you really need energy, and your body is allowing it, because if you have like a lot of muscle pain or you're injured, you can still do this, probably can do this exercise. But if you feel good and it feels all right, you can do it like very phonetically, really like this. You pump earthly energy into your body. And I learned this exercise when I was still in the trading business, in the financial trading. I stopped 5 years ago. I will tell you in a bit how that was. But just imagine that you're going out with all the colleagues, and I literally went to bed 7 o'clock hugging a bottle of vodka. And at 8 o'clock I had to be at breakfast again, to be active the whole day, you know, like riding squats and do the crazy stuff that you do on a weekend out with your colleagues from the financial markets. So I had 45 minutes of sleep. Then put out my shoes, stand in the grass, do this exercise, 5 minutes, run to the shower, 5 minutes, put my clothes on and be at breakfast at 8 o'clock with 45 minutes sleep and be able to go on the whole day. And this is what this exercise does to you. If you have a lack of energy, you do this every morning, you will notice you get a lot of energy. And there's another positive side effect here. You become thinner. I know nobody who does this exercise every day and is not like completely tight here. So I can make a bet with one of you. And I have to warn you, I always win this. You know, if you are prepared to do this 6 days a week, you measure your waist, and in 3 months' time, you will be thinner. If not, I'll buy you dinner. If so, you buy me dinner. I've never lost, okay? The text in this book, I just downloaded them, you know, so they came from above, like channeled. So I always say, you know, like, it's from this book is written from my intuition to your intuition. So if you don't like the book, it's your mind being obnoxious. Who wants this one? I sign it later. Yeah. Joy and enjoying life starts with gratitude for the things that are still there. Yeah, and I learned this, of course, the hard way. I told you the 2 lessons that I learned on my first day of trading, you know, no ego and living in the moment. When I was trading for 6 years, I forgot the lessons because I was in the biggest fund, Royal Dutch Shell. I was the biggest trader. And the Dutch market was, after Chicago, the biggest market in the world. So me, the guy with the curly hair, was one of the biggest traders in the world. You start to notice, you know, like my ego was getting like bigger and bigger and bigger. I was getting overconfident. Now, my position was also blowing up. I don't want to be too technical about it, but I was taking too much risk because my ego was so big and I felt so good about myself. And like the biggest trader, one of the biggest traders in the world. Oh, I'm so cool. And then suddenly my belief system switched to being carefree to, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything I own. So from this being too big for my boots, I went into the fear side. And I lived 6 months in complete fear, and I lost 600,000 euros in 6 months' time. That's 100,000 a month. That is 3,000, a little bit more than 3,000 a day, including the weekends. And I didn't spend it on like pink champagne and Ferraris and prostitutes, you know, what you would expect from a typical stock market guy. I just went on my bicycle to my work, you know, and had the same hair. You know, I was called the hippie trader in the crowd, you know, like because well, I looked like this basically. And I always corrected them, no, I'm not a hippie trader, I'm a yippie trader. You know, I'm a yuppie hippie trader. Or a hippie with a credit card. But then 6 months later, I was not a yuppie and the credit card neither, you know, because I was broke. I lost everything in 6 months' time. And it's really no fun story. We all have our stories, you know. It was a story of waking up in the middle of the night, being in complete panic, screaming. That was my work also, you know, the colored jackets and yelling quotes. But I woke up in the middle of the night, screaming option quotes, you know, the 0670 put, which was like that part in my position that was blowing up. Too technical, sorry. I'm going back there again a little bit, you know, like, oh my God, that was like the worst time of my life. But I had a very awkward emotion. So the last week I lost 100,000 euros and it was like finished. I was, you know, free for the rest of the year. No job, like completely broke. Not completely broke, but the money in the company was gone. And I was standing the day after in front of my house. And I had this really awkward emotion. I was relieved. And I really didn't understand what was going on. How can I be relieved? You know, like my biggest nightmare just became reality. And I'm relieved? What is this? And I noticed that with losing all that money, I also lost the fear of losing it. And I learned from that a few things, you know, that we can fear things, but you can never prepare for the bad to happen. And maybe living in fear is worse than that fearful thing actually happening. Another thing is that 99% of our fears never become reality. You know, like how many times you pick up your shopping bag and think like, oh my God, if I drop it, I break that jar of jam. And how many times does it happen? Almost never. So it's okay to fear. It's human to fear, to worry. But it's also quite useless. Now, whenever you're in a worrying state somewhere in the future, and you think of this, you know, like, oh, it's okay to worry, but it's also quite useless, you will notice that you start to worry less. Because you allow yourself to worry, basically. And another thing I learned is that although I lost all that money, we didn't have to go out of our house, so we didn't have to sell the house. It's like, thanks, Mom, still, you know, my mother. We had 3 kids back then. They were all healthy. My wife didn't leave me. You never know, you know, like cash gone, partner gone. So you never know. So I found out that although I was really rock bottom, there's enough things to be grateful for still. And gratitude, if you have something you're grateful for, you're actually feeling joy. And this is the start from enjoying life. And there's one more thing for me to do. You can use this book as oracle cards. You know, like open it up at a random page and see what the message is of today. So my message, my wish for you is to be able to break free from all the thought patterns that don't help you further, to let go of the energies you don't need, to have fun and have fun and have fun and enjoy your life to the fullest, to feel the force, and to leave your legacy, to keep on moving towards the light. Now I take a deep breath in. And I open the book at a random page and see what is happening. Okay, there's 2 parts. They say mind over matter, money on your mind and mind on your body. This is a big ego cruncher. Since half a year I need this. It's terrible. So they say mind over matter, money on your mind and mind on your money. But I find that when I focus on alternate energies, it becomes spirit over mind over matter. If spirit is over mind, the core is strong, and all these mind and matter things just follow along. Just come along. That's the left side. The right side says, my path, known to him, it's in my system. In my cells, like little spells being cast one by one as pieces of the puzzle of my path. That's it. Thank you very much for your time. Who can catch? You were first. Thank you.